But let's move on. The RBI has appointed an additional director for Bandhan Bank. What do these RBI appointments on bank boards say for the financial sector? We have the former RBI Deputy Governor H.R. Khan and Abizer Diwanji, the partner and national leader financial services at EY India, joining us now. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining in. Mr. Khan, I want to start with you. What does this really mean, these additional appointments on bank boards for the sector, for the various stakeholders of the sector as well?
There is RBI has wide-ranging power over the regulation and development of the banking sector and the entities which come under its regulatory remit. So in terms of approval of the director, chairman, MD, and there is a specific provision, Banking Regulation Act 36AB, which provides that RBI can appoint additional directors for a specific period in the interest of banking policy, or in public interest, or in the interest of the company, or in the interest of other stakeholders, particularly depositors. So public interest is a wide term, so it could mean many things, and also it is in the interest of the company. So that is the source of power for Reserve Bank to appoint additional directors. And in the past, RBI has put additional directors in many banks. So that is the background for appointing additional directors.
Got it. I just want to get Abizer Diwanji into this discussion as well. Abizer, hi, thanks for joining in on the show. There are two ways to look at it. Of course, this is an interim measure by the RBI in order to improve the functioning of the bank, right? So on one hand, one can believe that this is a more prudent measure exercised by the RBI. But there is one section of the market that also believes that there could be more skeletons in the closet of these banks in terms of higher amount of NPAs, more increasing amount, in the stress pool, etc. How are you reading into the developments here?
So I think, as Mr. Khan just said, that RBI has the ability to appoint people, and RBI has exercised that. I think what is important to notice is that I think it's about causes for horses. Depending on where the Reserve Bank feels the need for incremental supervision or incremental involvement, I would say, not supervision, involvement, they would take steps. So whether, in some cases, as we have seen, that they have barred specific operations, they have barred customer acquisitions, they have, depending on what they believe the issues are. Now, in this particular case, maybe, the issue would be that, there is a CEO discontinuation that's happening on the 9th of June. And there needs to be somebody at an overall board level. And that's important to notice. It doesn't really specify or pinpoint to a particular problem, but it says that there is an overall need to stabilize the ship in case of a leadership change. And in this particular case, especially when there have been issues around, their claims that have been put in on the NPL that have been claimed from the government as far as COVID lendings and etc. were concerned. So there is an issue to say, let us have somebody on the board at a supervisory level, so that the overall operations of the board can be handheld till such time that a stable leadership is put into place. So that could be the intent.
Yeah, no, we've seen action like this earlier as well. RBL, of course, comes to mind. Mr. Khan, for viewers who are watching, and maybe investors in particular, they'd like to hear from you, sir, as a former regulator. How should they see this? It helps in steadying the ship, or cleaning house, and more stuff will come out in the coming months. What's your sense, sir?
And I'm not in a position to second guess what could be the intent or for Reserve Bank and what could be the information available with them. As I mentioned, we have a broad spectrum powers available to Reserve Bank, and in particular under 36AB, they can appoint additional directors in the interest of the company, in the interest of the public, in the interest of the depositors, so they can do it. So there are many ways of looking at it, whether providing continuity, because there is, as Mr. Abizer said, about there may be a gap in between the old MD leaving and the new MD coming. So provide some continuity, or just to provide some supervisory comfort to RBI. So what exactly is the intent behind this, we can't only just second guess. But as I told you, this is a power available to Reserve Bank, and Reserve Bank does exercise powers as and when it feels like, with reference to information it is available. And these days, of course, Reserve Bank supervisory practices have been sharpened further. They have now analytics available. They do a lot of on-site supervision. Then there is top management is very hands-on. So they would be having information. And so I am not in a position to second guess what could be the reason, but this is a power available to Reserve Bank and they have exercised. And what exactly is the intent? Yeah.
Mr. Khan, in the case of Bandhan Bank, the additional director has been appointed for a period of 1 year. But in many other instances, the appointment was done for a period of 2 years. Is there anything to read in this?
I don't think, because you have to specify a tenure. That is what the Act says. You have to specify a tenure. So they have specified a tenure. If it's a 1 year, it can be increased to 2 years also. But one need not read too much into that. So as I said, tenure has to be specified. That is why they have specified. Yeah.
Okay.
It could be relating to transition, as some people have commented. Yeah.
Sure. Got that. Separate from this issue, Mr. Khan, I just wanted your thoughts on the health of the banking sector, because, yesterday there was a note from Goldman Sachs on the sector where they said that there are now rising concerns around the health of rural lending, where there could be a rise in the stress over there in NPAs, etc. What are your thoughts on how things could shape up, especially in the rural side of things?
No, the rural sector is slightly different ball game. A lot of things depend on we have seen the recent past, there has been a bit of deceleration in the agriculture growth. So that will, of course, percolate to the ability of the borrowers to service the loan. So once the rural sector growth picks up, these issues should vanish. But then there is another issue of credit culture, which is there. It is not a new issue, it's an old issue, which is happening for a long time. And the whole model of agricultural lending, you lend and you try to get back once the crop cycle is over. I think those models probably needs to be looked at, whether we have something called KCC, which has looked at that and provided some flexibility to the borrowers. I think there is a need to look at the lending models for the rural sector, because the things have changed and we have to look at the fresh way of lending in the rural segment. And as I mentioned, because the rural sector, there has been a bit of deceleration, it will get reflected. So that could be the reason. And once it picks up, monsoon picks up, I think things should normalize a bit. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Khan, thank you for your thoughts. Appreciate your time here. Abizer, before we let you go, same question to you. I mean, is there something to worry about in terms of the credit culture in the rural lending space? Are we staring at higher amount of NPAs? What is the health of the rural lending system at the moment?
Not the best person to comment on it, frankly.
Sure.
But I do believe that, it'll all depend on the monsoons and stuff like that. We are expecting better monsoons. We've been optimistic, but the monsoons haven't played, to our tunes as yet. But if they do, I think there will be an uptick, and you will find that rural distress will come down. Rural distress is a fact that we've been living it for a long time. I don't think there is anything new or resurgent that is emerging out of it. RBI has been concerned on a larger scale in terms of the quality of credit in the system, which is non-corporate banking credit, and I think that is that they have shown out amply in whatever they're doing. But I must comment, on the going basis that from the topic that we are talking about on Bandhan, and I couldn't help seeing the ticker that flows along with our conversation, and that keeps showing that Bandhan Bank has actually increased the maximum today morning. So I guess everybody is hailing this as a stability factor for our current conversation. And if that is actually the case, I think it's better for the banking system, and RBI's involvement seems to be taken as positive by everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, but also maybe the fact that it's such a bombed out name that from those levels there is a bit of some buying which is coming. I had a few other questions, but we're out of time, Abizer, so we'll request you to come back. We'll invite you back. With regards to some of these regulatory actions that we've been saying, and market is waiting for waiting to hear from the RBI and some of the actions they've already taken, names around IIFL, etc. But that's for a later date. Thank you very much for joining us. Great speaking with you, and it's always good conversation.